I would like to build another team with the Annihilape and Steelix core, although I would put the Annihilape on the lead. I'd put Steelix in the back, and then I would have a third Pokemon. Maybe Dunsparce could work, and Dunsparce could be the safe swap in that situation. But I am going to test those teams out later. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. Sorry for the dramatic intro. I feel like I gotta do something a little bit different with my videos sometimes because these Go Battle League videos can get a little bit repetitive. But hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to share with you guys a team that got me 3 5-0s and a 4-1. So yesterday I played 4 sets with this team and we got 19 wins out of 20 battles, which is insane. I was not expecting this team to perform as well as it did, but it surprised me. And as always, if a team is working really well for me, then I am gonna share it with you guys. Now, I had someone point this out on my last video, but not every team is going to work for everyone. I'm just trying my best to bring you guys the best teams that I find, in my opinion, based on my playstyle. But like I said, everyone has different luck. Maybe they are seeing different metas when they're playing. So this team might not be for you, but for me, it worked really, really well. And I cannot wait to share these battles with you guys because some of these, I got so hard countered in them, but I was able to flip the match in my favor. That is why I really enjoyed running these 3 Pokemon. It is going to be Annihilape on the lead with 2 things in the back that are going to be weak to fighters. You have Dunsparce on a safe swap, and then you have the recently buffed Steelix with Thunderfang. So basically with this team, you have that Annihilape that's going to be able to handle those fighting types, which your backline is going to be weak to. And then your back 2 Pokemon, so Dunsparce and Steelix, are going to be able to handle the flying types that Annihilape is weak to. So let's say a Drifblim, a Mandibuzz, which is very common this season, a Jumpluff, and Talonflame. Your backline is going to be able to handle all of those Pokemon for Annihilape. And then Annihilape also does a really good job of covering for some of the other weaknesses that your backline might have, like opposing Dunsparces, like Diggersby also, because your backline is pretty weak to Diggersby. And Annihilape does a pretty good job of handling Pokemon like Gastrodon and Clodsire. Speaking of Clodsire, we are running that Ice Punch on Annihilape, and there is one match in particular where I am so hard countered by my opponents, but I only win it because I'm able to land an Ice Punch onto their Clodsire. They were running a double ground backline, and somehow I was able to win that match. You guys might have already seen it. I got excited and posted it on Twitter. But yeah, that Ice Punch on Annihilape came in so clutch in so many of these matches. Like I said, I prefer Ice Punch over close combats, and Ice Punch got buffed recently, so it's a really good move. And then on Steelix, I'm running Breaking Swipe instead of that Crunch. You can run Crunch if you want to, but I wanted neutral coverage for dark types like Morpeko, Mandibuzz, and Guzzlord, especially Guzzlord. That Breaking Swipe is really good to have. Now, as far as weaknesses go and what Pokemon to watch out for, I wouldn't say this team has a lot of weaknesses, but you will struggle a little bit against grass types. So Pokemon like Serperior, Chesnaught, Venusaur, maybe Whimsicott, those Pokemon are going to give you a little bit of a hard time, but it's not impossible to deal with them. And that's going to be because Steelix is running Thunderfang, and Thunderfang is going to be resisted on those Pokemon. And in general, Annihilape and Dunsparce don't really do well against those Pokemon, but there are some workarounds. It is not completely impossible to deal with those grass types. Another Pokemon that might give you a little bit of a hard time if you cannot handle this Pokemon with the Annihilape, then Marowak might be a little bit difficult for this team. That's basically all the explanation I have for you guys. I'm just going to jump into the battles because I have a lot to go through today. You guys might notice that this video is a little bit longer than usual, but I mean, 3 5-0s and a 4-1. Come on. I kind of wanted to show them all off. And also, just really quickly, I want to remind you guys that these battles were recorded yesterday. So if you ran into me in GBL today, I'm sorry, but your battles are not going to be in this video. And also, I was not recording today. I was just playing for fun. I was playing for myself. Sometimes I like to play for myself. I don't record every single battle, but I get that comment a lot, so... Oh, and I don't mind if I get that comment, by the way. I'm not annoyed. I don't get annoyed when people say GG's to me. I actually really like it. It means someone out there cares that they battled me, and it gives me warm fuzzies. Okay, I'm gonna stop now. Let's jump into these battles. Okay, so the match taking place on screen right now, I was supposed to lose. My opponent left with a move stored on Marowak, and Marowak is going to win CMP over Steelix, but I end up winning this because my opponent makes a mistake. Okay, so here I'm going to use my final shield because an Aura Wheel will KO, I believe, but they end up baiting with Psychic Fangs anyways, so at this point I'm thinking, okay, there's no way I can win this except for if I call that my opponent is going to swap out here into Marowak, I need to tap the Breaking Swipe immediately. Even if it lands on the Morpeko, this is the only play that I have. We end up making the right call. We throw the Breaking Swipe on the Marowak, take the Marowak out, and we're able to take that win. All my opponent had to do was stay in with Morpeko, let Morpeko go, and then we would have had to CMP tie on the charged move. But because they didn't do that, they lost a turn swapping into Marowak, and I was able to throw the Breaking Swipe before my opponent could throw their Bone Club. Alright, now moving on to the next battle, we were up against a Bibarel on the lead, which is a really nice lead for us, and my opponent swapped immediately into Clodsire. Okay, I decided to go for an Ice Punch to weaken the Clodsire before swapping into my Dunsparce. That way Dunsparce can have a little bit of an easier time against the Clodsire. However, in the Clodsire matchup, my opponent ends up shielding, and then they swap into Jumpluff. And this is amazing for me because now I have Dunsparce aligned to Jumpluff and I can go for 2 Rock Slides, which my opponent lets go. Steelix can come in and farm the Jumpluff down, and my opponent just has a low health Clodsire and a Bibarel left. I even go ahead and no-shield this and it ends up being a Stone Edge, and then my opponent is going to go ahead and top left. I was going to be able to handle the Bibarel very easily with both Steelix and my Annihilape. Steelix, remember, is going to hit for super effective with that Thunder Fang. And that is going to be our first 5-0 of the evening. Moving on to the next battle, we're going to be up against a terrible lead of Cresselia. I'm just going to swap into my Dunsparce and pray. Dunsparce doesn't necessarily do well against Cresselia, but I'm not going to bring in Steelix because that's the harder counter. But anyways, we managed to go for a Drill Run to weaken the Cresselia a little bit, and then my opponent swaps out into a Greninja. I can let the first Hydro Cannon go, but I'm recognizing here that my opponent is in a range where I can double shield and roll out them down. I go for another Drill Run here just so I could take a shield from them. However, my opponent actually lets Greninja go. That way I don't have to use my final shield. That's really good. And now I can have Steelix aligned to Cresselia. I was actually willing to give up both shields for my Dunsparce so that I could have the Steelix aligned to Cresselia, and Steelix should be able to do okay against Cresselia with no shields, but my opponent's final Pokemon is going to be a Shadow Drapion, and Annihilape against Shadow Drapion is going to be much better than Steelix against Shadow Drapion. But my opponent still has 2 shields left, so I'm going to start getting those out of the way. With the Rage Fists, I should be able to reach another Rage Fist here. Really hoping that my opponent is going to shield again. They do. That's really good for me. They are in a range where I can come in and Thunder Fang them down before they can reach another Aqua Tail. But my opponent is going to bring that Cresselia back in now, and it's very low. Even, I think, 2 Grass Dance is not going to be enough to take us out. Well, just barely. But we're able to KO the Cresselia before they do, and my opponent is going to go ahead and top left. GG's to our opponent. Now, this next match is the only loss you guys are going to see in this video, but it was hard counter city. We go up against a Skeleturge on the lead. I swap into Dunsparce, and we draw out the worst possible Pokemon for Dunsparce. It is going to be a Chesnaught, which absolutely walls us. The Drill Runs and the Rock Slides are going to be resisted, so that's unfortunate for us. But my opponent gets a little bit greedy here, and they try to farm us down, so they end up giving up a shield for one of our Drill Runs, and then I'm going to come in with my Annihilape. I have to take one of the Frenzy Plants because my opponent has so much energy, but I will be able to counter them down. I barely have any health left on my Annihilape, but I am going to go for a Rage Fist here to potentially weaken the Skeledirge or take their final shield. We end up taking their final shield, and then I swap into my Steelix, really hoping my opponent doesn't have another fighter in the back. They end up having a Primeape, and that Primeape is going to reach that close combat to take our Steelix out. And they're even going to take our Annihilape out because Annihilape was really low. So GG's to our opponent. They are going to take that win. But that was like really, really hard counter for my team. There was like not much I could do there. But in the next battle, it looks like we are going to hard counter our opponents because our opponent leads Alolan Sandslash into Annihilape. My opponent swaps immediately into Azumarill, and I am going to bring in Steelix. Now I do something a little bit risky here. I decide to let the next Ice Beam go, and I basically give my opponent Switch, which is risky because usually an Alolan Sandslash on the lead is going to have 2 answers to fighting types in the back usually. But I get super lucky here because my opponent's final Pokemon is a Goodra, and Annihilape is going to be able to handle this Goodra pretty well. It is going to be a neutral matchup. We both have 2 shields left. I'm going to start going for these Rage Fists and buffing my counters, so the Annihilape is going to be doing more and more damage to this Goodra. And I decide to use both my shields on my Annihilape. I mean, I still have a full health Dunsparce in the back, so there's not much my opponent can do. But we are going to take that win. GG's to our opponent. I got so lucky there that my opponent's 3rd Pokemon was not an anti-fighter. Moving on to the next battle, we're going to be up against a Wigglytuff on the lead. Now, I really thought that this team was going to destroy me because Wigglytuff Double Ground is a very common team. But we swap into Dunsparce, and my opponent is staying in. Now, we managed to weaken the Wigglytuff, and then they swap into their own Dunsparce, so they're probably not running that double Mudslapper backline. But we are going to weaken the Dunsparce a little bit, and then I am going to come in with my Annihilape, and I think I'm going to try to farm them down, but if they reach the move, which they do, I'm going to go for a move of my own. I could have gone for the Rage Fist because it would have KO'd from this range, but my opponent ends up shielding anyways, which is annoying. I have to give up my own shield now to save the Annihilape, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Talonflame. Okay, I have that Thunder Fang, which is going to hit for super effective. They let the first Psychic Fangs go on their Talonflame. We're able to take them out before my opponent can reach a second move, and then I can go for a Psychic Fangs against the Wigglytuff, and I can even reach a second Psychic Fang. So even if my opponent used their shield, I would have been able to reach a second one, and we take that win thanks to Steelix. Moving on to the final battle of the set, we are going to be up against a Gastrodon on the lead. This is great. This is exactly where we want to see it. If we can land the Rage Fist and shield the Earth Power correctly, then we can actually counter this Gastrodon down. I'm going to go ahead and shield. Thank goodness my opponent does not bait. We're able to shield the Earth Power, counter Gastrodon down, and then go for an Ice Punch on the Jumpluff, which does not shield. And then I swap into Dunsparce, and my opponent just goes ahead and top left. That Ice Punch on that Jumpluff was so brutal. But that is going to be a 4-1 in that set. So the team is still going pretty good, I would say. But let's see how long I can keep it up, because in the next battle, I'm going to be up against a Shadow Drapion, which is an okay lead for us. I usually will let the first move go, and then I will shield the second move. I'm going to go for a Rage Fist here. I should be able to shield once and counter this Drapion down. So my opponent recognizes this, and they are going to swap out into an Azu. I have the Steelix for the Azu. I'm going to bring it in. Of course, they are running Ice Beam. A lot of people are not going to be running Hydro Pump, thank goodness. And I'm just going to weaken this as much as I can. I do not want to invest my final shield, so I am going to let the Steelix go here. I actually don't care too much about Switch because my opponent basically only has one Pokemon left. And it looks like that one Pokemon is going to be Diggersby, which Dunsparce is going to struggle against. So I need to try to damage this as much as possible with my Annihilape. So I go ahead and shield. At least I can get both of my opponent's shields out of the way with the Ice Punches, and we get them into the yellow. So I just need to land 2 drill runs from our Dunsparce and we should be good. I just have to watch for a catch. My opponent has 2 potential catches because they have a very low health Azu in the back and a very low health Drapion. Now, I don't want my Dunsparce getting any lower, so I decide to throw the move on the Drapion to take it out. And now my opponent is going to bring that Diggersby back in. I should be able to reach 2 drill runs before my opponent can reach a Scorching Sands. We're going to go for that second drill run, and thank goodness it takes that Diggersby out, and we're able to take that win. In the next battle, we're going to see a Shadow Hypno on the lead. Terrible lead for us. I'm going to swap into my Dunsparce and hope for the best. My opponent brings out a Morpeko, and Morpeko can do pretty well against Dunsparce as long as it shields. And it looks like I should be able to reach 2 drill runs here and take both of my opponent's shields. I'm going to go for that second move, but I think my opponent is going to be able to Thundershock us down, which is not great. Because, yeah, I'm going to have to take all this energy on my Annihilape. I think I'm going to go ahead and double shield Annihilape here. I know I can come out of this with a lot of energy and go for a Rage Fist against that Hypno, and that is going to hit for super effective. So that's what I'm going to do here, going for that Rage Fist and then swapping out into Steelix. I needed to swap out anyways because I was debuffed and those confusions were really going to hurt. But it looks like my opponent's final Pokemon is going to be a Drapion. Neither of us have shields left. I am going to be able to reach a Breaking Swipe before my opponent can reach 2 Aqua Tails. So we take that Drapion out, and here I'm just hoping that I can survive whatever my opponent is going to throw. They go for an Ice Punch. We reach another Breaking Swipe, take the Hypno out, and that is going to be another win for us. Okay, disclaimer, I cut a battle there because I'm getting a little bit tired commentating. I still have an entire set left. But anyways, moving on to the next battle, we were up against a Morpeko on the lead, and my opponent swaps out into Gligar. Okay, this is going to be a little bit tricky for my team, but I stay in, I go for a Rage Fist, and I take a shield from my opponent, and at this point, I'm just committed to staying in this with my Annihilape. I'm going to go for another Rage Fist here. Thank goodness my opponent lets it go, and it looks like my opponent's final Pokemon is going to be a Jumpluff. Okay, I swap immediately into my Dunsparce. My opponent brings out that Morpeko, and I should be able to take their final shield with this drill run. Actually, I reached 2 drill runs against this Morpeko. The second one is going to KO, and we're even going to reach a Rock Slide against the Jumpluff, weaken the Jumpluff, and now I should be able to handle this with my Steelix. My opponent is going to go for an Energy Ball here, but 2 are not going to be enough. They even get a defense drop, but I should be able to reach... I don't think I'm going to be able to reach another Breaking Swipe after this, but we get the Jumpluff low enough to where I can come in with Annihilape and counter it down, and it also looks like the opponent is not running Aerial Ace. Otherwise, they might have been able to reach it. But GG's to our opponent, we are going to take another win there. Moving on to the next battle, we're going to be up against a Gastrodon on the lead. Pretty okay lead. As I told you guys earlier, it is going to be bait dependent. Now, I go for a Rage Fist, and this time my opponent shields, so I'm going to call a bait here. It ends up being a Body Slam, and then my opponent just top lefts. GG's to my opponent, but thank goodness that was a short match because your girl's getting a little bit tired talking here. We have 1 set left. 1 set. Okay, that's another 5-0 there. Yay! Ooh, we've reached my favorite battle of the video. I don't even know if anyone's still watching here, but this is the one I posted on Twitter, and you guys will see why, because we get so hard countered in this match. We are up against a Mandibuzz running Air Slash against our Annihilape. I swap into Dunsparce, and we draw out a Diggersby. Okay, that's not good for us. Diggersby can do really well against Dunsparce, but I'm going to be able to weaken it with the drill runs at least. And here, actually, they go for a Scorching Sands and it doesn't take us out, so I'm able to reach another drill run as well. And then I can come in with my Annihilape, and I'm going to go for a full farm down. Now, keep this in mind. I'm able to reach an Ice Punch, and then I swap out into my Steelix, and we get so hard countered in the back. My opponent is going to have a Clodsire. But I am not going to back out. I'm gonna try to stall out the switch timer, and I'm just gonna start debuffing my opponent's defense with these Psychic Fangs. They start using shields on the second Psychic Fangs, and I think this is where my opponent kind of messed up, because they end up using both of their shields here. I am now hoping that I've debuffed them enough for this Ice Punch to do a good amount of damage to this Clodsire. It ends up KOing. I did not expect it to do that much damage. The Clodsire is now out of the way, and I basically have a full health Steelix for their Mandibuzz, and of course we have that Breaking Swipe, which is gonna hit for neutral. I just need to reach one more and take it out with the Thunder Fangs. We're gonna be able to do that, and we are going to take this win. That was a hard counter team for mine, and we still won that. Oh, but you guys think that was a hard counter team? Wait until you see this next one, because we are going to be up against a Shadow Jumpluff on the lead. Terrible lead for us. I swap into Steelix this time instead of swapping into Dunsparce, and we draw out a Shadow Annihilape. Okay, at least I can go for these Psychic Fangs, which are super effective, and my opponent actually ends up double shielding their Annihilape. Okay, I have a plan here. I'm gonna shield once, and I'm gonna attempt to farm their Annihilape down. We managed to do it, thank goodness. I can now come out of this with so much energy and go for an Ice Punch for the Jumpluff, which really hurts. And we even managed to catch an Aerial Ace on our Dunsparce. Okay, it looks like my opponent's final Pokemon is gonna be a Dunsparce of their own, so we should be in an okay position here. I even think I have enough energy on my Annihilape where I can come in against a Jumpluff and reach the Rage Fist before they can reach an Aerial Ace. Okay, my switch timer is up. I managed to get a couple of counters in, so now I can definitely reach that Rage Fist. We're gonna go for it now against the Jumpluff, take Jumpluff out, and we are gonna be able to counter their Dunsparce down and take that win. GG's to our opponent. Alright guys, there's just a few battles left here, but I am going to go ahead and sign off and leave you guys here with the matches. Feel free to watch if you want to. This set is going to be our third 5-0, so I think we can conclude that this team is pretty solid. But if you guys have made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. If you guys like my content, please consider subscribing. Maybe leave a like, it helps me out so much. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye bye!